Hi, and welcome to Green TV, the show that focuses on independent Green Party candidates, and positive Green New Deal eco-job solutions for the economy. Solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, rail jobs, conservation jobs, and weatherization jobs. On the show with us today, Kate Alexandrova and Bill
Dwyer.
Thanks, Bill. And on the phone with us, the Green Party candidate for U.S. Senate in Texas, Emily Sanchez. Emily, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be a part of this.
And of course, our amazing crew in the control room, Director Carey Rafter,
Gail, for real? Go ahead.
Happy Garcia, thank you. Dylan Taffel, we're off to a bumpy start. Dylan Taffel, there's Janet Murphy on the teleprompter, and our beautiful producer, Gail Farrell Parker.
Let's start off with you, Bill. What interests you about the positive independent Green Party solutions? What attracts you to the green idea of what we can do constructive?
Oh, lots of things. I mean, the whole interest in, eco-consciousness and recycling and the rail and all those things are extremely interesting.
How did you start being green? How did you actually?
Well, I grew up in Tennessee, where it's not that it's not part of the culture. I should say, probably as an understatement, but. I moved up here in D.C. in '92, and I was lucky enough to travel to Europe, so I had friends from Switzerland, and I was lucky enough to get exposure to a different way of doing things. So I said, kind of makes sense to be eco-conscious, to be concerned about the environment, eating clean food, clean water, all these things, having rail, actually using the metro, what a concept. So I kind of came back, went to college, and moved up here, and I pretty much changed my life at that point, and it became part of my lifestyle. It's just normal to me to do that. Sorry,
Bill. Emily Sanchez, Texas Green Party. Now you've taken it a step farther, Emily, and we salute you for being a Green Party candidate for U.S. Senate in Texas. Emily, tell us a bit about yourself, please.
I'm currently full-time employed as a physical therapist assistant. I work in the medical community. I'm a single mother. I come from humble beginnings, working class, and to me, my interest with the Green Party sprouted after the Occupy movement. I was part of the movement down in South Texas. And after that ended, a lot of the people that I got to meet and work with within the Occupy movement showed interest in the Green Party, and we aligned our beliefs with what the 10 key values stand for. And we decided to go to the state convention in Texas, and we kind of started from there, where we started the Webb County Green Party. And we've been working with that. I no longer live in Webb County, unfortunately, but I'm still happy to be part of the Green Party and trying to get the word out of what we stand for.
On Green TV with us is Emily Sanchez. Emily Sanchez, the Green Party Texas candidate for U.S. Senate. Emily Sanchez, you mentioned there that you have a youngin'. Tell us, you got a boy, girl? Tell us a little bit about that.
I actually have two. I have two teenage sons, 16 and 14.
Emily, we all know that you are known as Emily Spicy Brown Sanchez. Tell us a little bit about that. I know you're a poet.
Yes, the Spicy Brown name comes from slam poetry. I've always had an interest in creative writing, and I did one time as part of a curriculum for school, I attended a slam poetry occasion event in Laredo, Texas. And I was so taken back by the performance and the freedom of expression used with that medium, where you can pretty much anything is a go. You can speak about anything you want to speak. And nobody's going to tell you to get off the stage. Nobody's going to tell you to not say what you have to say.
Well, you did say in a couple of interviews that your poetry is not laid back, and it actually reflects social inequalities. So I think we here are all curious to hear maybe some of your poetry.
It does. It represents. I know a lot of it. I'm inspired by the culture that I come from. I'm also inspired by what I see and the inequalities of the class systems, that there seems to be a class war at hand, but nobody kind of points that out, or they just ignore to talk about. So that's what I talk about in my poetry. One of the poems that I do have in mind, that I do have memorized, it talks about just being a woman, an independent woman. It's bilingual. It's called Latinas. If you guys are interested, I can say that one.
Roll 'em. Go, Emily. Go.
Okay. What does a woman inherit that tells her how to go? What does a woman inherit that tells her how to go? It is intelligence wrapped in poverty, a brilliant mind humbled by life, the birth of an art. With curves she can't hide any less than the fire in her eyes and the passion in her voice. Born into a world that she is destined to fight, because they expect goodness, but all she can give them is guidance. Because we are Latinas. We grow up in the barrios. We run barefoot on hard gravel and laugh and play without a care. We carry dirt on our skin, but clean dreams in our hearts. Dreams that sprout like the rosales in the gardens our mothers water every day. Because we too have been cultivated to be good, proper, and obedient. But some of us, the wicked ones, well, we inherit our destiny from mastic divinities. We burn from the inside out and release our sins unto the world. Somos las hijas buenas. Somos las tercas, the ones with the trouble broken hearts. The ones that won't hold our tongue. We are the ones that learn how to think before we learn how to cook. Somos las hijas buenas, born on a path of pain, because we reject the tradition that is right for us in exchange for the dreams that we write for us. So I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, if I have yet to be domesticated. You see, this is a revolution against the old ways. I'm breaking down walls so my niece doesn't have to climb in through windows. So her generation doesn't question why she has to do things different and call her crazy. So she can grow up in a culture where being a strong woman is not a fault or a weakness. Not that she needs any help. From the moment she was born, I know she's meant for greatness. She has a stubborn will, a dramatic personality, a relentless love for drawing on walls, and complete disregard for the word no. She is different. She is one of us, an artist, and a verdadera Latina. And she's managed to achieve this all by a very mature age of 30, because goddesses are not made, we are born.
Oh, that was moving.
Emily Sanchez, fascinating.
I think Carey teared up here a little bit.
Thanks for...
Yes, you did.
You know, I do get that from people when I read that poem. They do get emotional about it. The very first time I practiced that poem on my own, I cried. It made me cry. So I've been rehearsing it so it doesn't have the same impact.
All right, I'm a practical green politico here, Emily. Emily Sanchez, tell us about some of the Texas Green Party had so many candidates on the ballot, and you're looking ahead to a busy 2015 for Green Party candidates on the ballot. If you would please name, we've had Ken Kendricks on the ballot in Texas. We've had Ken here on Green TV. Who are some of the other Green Party candidates that ran with you in Texas? Emily Sanchez.
Yes, there was Martina Salinas out of Fort Worth, Texas. She ran for Railroad Commission. We had, I believe, Antonio Diaz out of San Antonio. In Laredo itself, there was candidate Fish for Justice of the Peace. And there's others that I can't name off the top of my head, but
Emily, what were some of the key issues? For example, the Independent Green Party of Virginia advocates for more green candidates, less apathy, more trains, less traffic, and fiscally and socially responsible governance. What were some of the key things in your campaign, Emily, that as a Green Party candidate for U.S. Senate in Texas, that you focused on?
For my campaign, I was really going for universal health care. I work in the medical community, so I see how that makes an impact. Not having enough medical coverage. You know, sometimes our patients are affected and they can't get the best quality of care because of, you know, changes to Medicare, and on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, so we're impacted, and they're afraid that they're not going to get the same care that they deserve. Another issue I was... before you shift to the next one, Emily Sanchez, Green Party candidate for Senate, U.S. Senate from Texas. Some Green Party folks call that Medicare for all, right? I would go more towards universal.
Universal, okay, fine.
Single payer.
Right. Emily Sanchez, we got 1 minute here on Green Party Green TV. So that means you've got about 30 seconds to tell us what you want.
Oh, and the second one issue was with immigration reform, and then with renewable energy as well. So those were the 3 main points that I wanted to make sure that everybody knew about when I was running for my campaign.
And of course, wind is big business, renewable energy in Texas. Wind is very big business down there and making profits. Is that correct? You're there. We've got 30 seconds, Emily. I need a yes or no.
Well, right now they do a lot of fracking, so we're having an anti-fracking stance against that, and we're hoping to make a difference with that. Denton already passed an anti-fracking.
Emily Sanchez, Green Party candidate from Texas for U.S. Senate. Emily, we thank you for joining us on Green TV today. We look forward to having you back. We want to thank Bill Dwyer. Bill, thanks for being here also.
You're welcome.
Kate Alexandrova, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And we thank you all for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again next time on Green TV. Welcome to Green Party Green TV. I'm Carey Campbell, your host, with Gail Farrell Parker, the Independent Green Party State Vice Chair, and Diane Blay, Independent Green Party Congressional District and Central Committee member. And on Green TV with us today, the Green Party leader and journalist and author, Patrica Helen LaMarche. Pat, welcome. We're here to talk about Pat LaMarche's new book, Daddy, What's the Middle Class? Patricia, what's this book about?
Well, it's basically a book about 40 stories or so of historical significance to the building, and then sadly the subsequent decline of the middle class in the United States.
What inspired you to write? What inspired you to write, Daddy, What's the Middle Class?
Well, I've been writing about poverty for a long time, and I've been a broadcaster for a long time, and a local broadcaster in central Pennsylvania was going to do a trip, and he wanted to broadcast 4 or 5 nights a week from historically significant places all across the United States. And he asked me if I would go along, and I loved the idea. I've always wanted to bring radio or TV audiences into the world they can't get to easily without the usual commercial television slant or commercial radio slant. And so I jumped at the chance and I wrote the companion book that went with the trip.
Patricia, I loved your book. Absolutely loved Daddy, What's the Middle Class? And I got 20 of them in the mail today. Your other book, Left Out in America. We'll talk about that on another Green TV. And I want you to know that each member of the Green TV staff tonight, God bless them for coming, everybody got what's the Middle Class?
Yes, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
I would like to read to you, and then I'd like to ask you to tell me your thoughts on this, and each one of you. This was one of the most moving passages in the book. If you could first set up the story with Haymarket. What happened in Haymarket?
Well, that was a really amazing time. I mean, I remember when I was studying the Haymarket, what turned out to be the Haymarket Massacre. Of course, at first it was the Haymarket Uprising, and then there were the Haymarket Trials. But when I first started studying it, a lot of the activists, August Spies and the others, were talking about how their labor movement was stalling because they could only get about 4,000 or 5,000 people to show up at an action. Can you imagine now? So this gentleman was a reporter, and he was standing outside of a strike. And it actually wasn't a strike, it was a lockout. And the difference in a strike and a lockout is a strike, the workers say, hey, this place kind of isn't good for us, and you're kind of not treating us properly, so we're going to stop working until you treat us better. In a lockout, the boss says, hey, guess what? I don't need you. I'm going to lock you out of work. I'm going to bring in replacement workers, which, of course, is called, in the vernacular, is scabs. I'm going to bring these scabs into work in your place, and you and your families can starve.
And these folks, Pat, if I could just interject, did I understand correctly from the book, the folks were really just demonstrating, they were trying to get a 40-hour work week?
Right, it was all for a 40-hour work week, and they were locked out because of that. And of course, the people who replaced them, they were starving too. You know, it's kind of like today, where everybody's looking for a job, and if somebody gets fired at the job, nobody speaks up, because they can't afford to lose their jobs. So it was the same sort of problem. And this reporter watched as an altercation happened. The scabs came out, the people who were protesting and the scabs had a clash, and then the Chicago police opened fire.
And this is in May 1886 in Chicago.
Right. And they opened fire, I believe it was May 4th. They opened fire, and they killed people, and the people they killed were shot in the back. They were people running away. And so this guy was like horrified, this August Spies, and he wrote a piece for his newspaper. And the people who ran the printing press, they printed two versions of it. One, which was, and he said in his trial, he just was so horrified by what he saw, by the police being used as a military against innocent people. And you know, if you go to Oakland Occupy, you can see that happening again, or possibly Ferguson, Missouri, or wherever. And so he was so horrified, he wanted people to know that. But a man at the printing press, or people at the printing press, they believe, printed 2,000 flyers that said, meet us at Haymarket, call to arms, it's time to fight back. And that was used against them in the Haymarket trial, saying that they had planned an attack, when they didn't. They absolutely didn't. Anyway, Haymarket, there was a rally. One of the guys, Albert Parsons, wasn't even there. One of the men found guilty and executed wasn't even there at the time. He was seen by 5,000 witnesses at a different rally. But these guys were found guilty, and as one of the Murderpedia.com, believe it or not, exists, and they said that these men were executed for the crime of trying to give us a 40-hour work week. And that's where the International Workers' Day came from, the biggest labor day in the world.
Oh.
And it's an amazing story, and shortly after, maybe, I guess it was a year or how long, the governor pardoned all of them, right, Pat?
Pardoned all of them and said the reason, I mean, even a friend of one of the policemen who died at the rally at the Haymarket massacre. Even a policeman's friend was on the jury. The judge was trying to impress some pretty wealthy bankers in town. The corporations that didn't want to have decent working conditions. The governor said, I can't turn my eyes on this tragedy, this absolute abrogation of justice. And he pardoned everyone. But unfortunately, 5 of them were dead by then.
Patrica Helen LaMarche, Green Party leader, Green Party vice presidential candidate in 2004. I am now going to read from Patrica Helen LaMarche's new book, Daddy, What's the Middle Class? I'd like to read 2 quotes. This is one of the men who were on trial. Quote, "You have charged me with despising law and order. What does your law and order amount to? Its representatives are the police, and they have thieves in their ranks. Here sits Captain Shack. He has himself admitted to me that my hat and pockets have been stolen from him by policemen in his office. Grinnell, the prosecutor, had the pitiful courage here in the courtroom where I could not defend myself to call me a coward, a scoundrel, a fellow who has leagued himself with a partial of base hireling knaves to bring me to the gallows. Why? For no earthly reason save a contemptible selfishness, a desire to rise in the world, a desire to make money and provide for my family." One of the 3 most powerful quotes in your book, Pat. An amazing story, a shocking story.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing I realized. You know, they keep throwing around the words socialist and communist like they're bad words anyway now. But one of the things I really realized about the labor movement is these people were capitalists. Capitalists in the way that they wanted the little c. They wanted a retirement. They wanted a little bit of money. They wanted some groceries. Now, what's the middle class? You think of it as somebody who might have a boat or might take a couple of vacations a year, or someone who can think about helping their child with their education. All these people wanted was a piece of the capital they were creating. They weren't trying to level everything, and it's always been such a he said, she said, rip to shreds anyone who just wants a decent life. And I think that's what's so awful about what's happening right now with the teachers' pensions and things in the United States, is what they're trying to tell you is that a teacher who doesn't want to retire in poverty is destroying the country. It's so absurd.
Pat, I'd like to, if I can now, to read one other passage from your book, Daddy, What's the Middle Class? Albert Parsons wrote a final letter to his wife, Lucy. Lucy is now buried with her husband at the memorial to his heroism and to her lifetime of activism in his place after he was murdered by the state of Illinois. Here are some of his final words to Lucy. My darling wife, our verdict this morning cheers the hearts of tyrants throughout the world, and the result will be celebrated by King Capital. Nevertheless, our doom to death is the handwriting on the wall. Nevertheless, it is a downfall of hate, malice, hypocrisy, judicial murder, oppression, and the domination of man over his fellow man. The oppressed of the earth are writhing in their legal chains. End quote. Patrica Helen LaMarche, you've written a powerful, moving story of Americans fighting for 40-hour work weeks, fighting, as you say, for pensions, for benefits. The book, while it covers American history, really seems to speak to some of the challenges across the United States for workers everywhere.
Yeah, the thing I think I was most shocked by, and there was so many shocking things that end up in that book, but the thing I was most shocked by was when I interviewed the Memphis sanitation workers, who of course were the workers that Martin Luther King Jr. had gone to help when he was murdered on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. I went to interview them, and they told me, I said, you people are the people he was with when he died. Is your workshop littered with his pictures? Are you wearing shirts with his face on it to work and his slogans? And the Memphis sanitation workers told me that they are not allowed to have Martin Luther King's image at the workplace. They are not allowed to wear a t-shirt with his face on it. They are not allowed to quote Martin Luther King Jr., the man who died for the movement. And these Memphis sanitation workers still do not have a pension.
A powerful part of the book, indeed. I was shocked when I read that portion as well, Pat LaMarche. Diane Blay, Gail Farrell Parker, we're under a minute left in this block of Green TV. Gail?
Pat, what are the solutions for us today? What can we do today?
The first thing we need to do is learn these stories. We need to understand that little people made really big differences. That book is full of people that nobody's ever heard of. And that's because America was built by people nobody ever heard of. And Henry Ford, that stinker, or Carnegie, they get the credit. But average, everyday little people did it. And if they did it, we can do it.
This is Green TV, Green Party TV. We have been talking about Daddy, what's the middle class? Patrica Helen LaMarche from South Dakota tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
Diane Blay, Gail Farrell Parker, thank you. And remember, you can watch Green TV. It airs on Comcast, 9:30 p.m. Monday, 7:30 a.m. Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. on Saturday. Thanks to our Green TV True, Martin Dudley, Happy Garcia, Carey Rafter, Martin Dale, Kate Alexandrova. Thank you. And stay with us on Green TV.